Hi guys, it's Alston. In this video, we are going to look into Axiomatic in depth. If you are looking for a shorter, quicker video, I have linked in the description where I try to go over all the features in a summary quick overview within 10 minutes. So you can check out that video if you are pressed for time. In this video, I'm going to take you through all the important function, give you all the necessary explanation, go through each of the module and the options which is available for you to get the complete and in-depth training for you. Okay, first, what is axiomatic? This is one of those SaaS where there is no clear definition or use cases. What do I mean by that is, Axiomatic is an alternative to some popular tools like Writela, WebScraper, or TextAU, Phantom Buster, where these are something like non-code solutions which helps you to create automation workflow for your need depending on your use cases. This is where you can build out your own scraping or automation recipes, or you can use their pre-built to create and make whichever the useful flow to get the data you need. It might be confusing, but when I go through the software and show you all the features and what are the modules available, you can get an idea on how this might be useful for you. That is important. There is no one use cases. Only depending on how you are planning to use this software will differ for each person to person. Okay, now let me go into the app so I can give you much more clear understanding. Basically, this is one of those apps where this is very simple user interface. It might be not sure on which to focus because all the words might be confusing for a beginner, but basically it's not that much. The dashboard gives you an overall view on your credit consumptions or how your automations are using traffic limits, and also how much success process in for paused, all the data which is relevant to your scraping recipes or automation, and an overall view depending on your plan. That is what your dashboard. The first screen you need to focus on is the settings one, where basically you can enable email notification. So whenever a process automation has finished, you will get a notification, because depending on the data input you give, depending on the automation modules you select, the data time will range from anywhere from 5 minutes or even 2 hours. So depending on that, you can set up email notification. You also can connect different services within your Axiomatic itself, and also you have the API key, but I haven't used that personally. So first you need to understand it. Axiomatic is divided into three main categories. One is scraping recipes, which typically means scraping or making your own recipes or flow from the scratch without using any built-in modules. So that is what scraping recipes mean. Automations mean that you are using whatever the modules or automation flow which Axiomatic team has created for you. That is what automation shows. And workflow is where you combine or use it separately, these automation and recipes, to create the workflow to get the data you need. So that is how it's done. First, let me show you automations, and this is the most easier and which will be much useful for most of the user. If I go into the automation and I'm just opening their website and going into automation for explaining which a bit easier for you, where here just giving the overall information, but you can see here they are giving the description also. Basically what these models means, these are pre-built workflows by Axiomatic which perform certain function using specific service or specific data flow. For example, it can range from Amazon product search, which can return products from Amazon depending on your search, email scraper, extract link from pages, get word count, all the different ones are available. You can see I'm just scrolling down. It's not much. This is, I want to emphasize on it, it's still on an early stage. So if you are watching this video on a much longer date, you might see a lot more models, but right now these are the only ones which is available for you. If you want to get an idea on what their roadmap is, look, you have the link here and it will open up to this roadmap block where you can see the Q3 features and long term, and you can see that they are planning on to add more modules into this, like SEO audit, text to speech, sentiment analysis, and you can also see integration. So this is still on a very early stage, and here also all the modules are not same, which means they have two different one is the built-in automation, another one is a premium automation. The main difference is built-in automation means that it only requires you their main credit system, the main automation credits. It does not make use of any third-party APIs or services or any stricter process. For example, something like Amazon product search, which Amazon really try to block automation. So whenever a third party is involved and these guys are taking bit hard to get the data, then they use classify that as a premium automation, where that means apart on top of your normal automation credit, whenever you're using this particular credit, it will consume a separate premium credits which is separately charged monthly. You can have a look through how much does it cost by clicking on here. For example, to get 100 search results from Amazon, it will charge this much. So you can go into different module charge the data differently, and you can get an idea on what does it consume you and what kind of data is it. So it is classified as premium automation whenever a third party is involved. Built-in automation is where it does not require any other third party, and they are able to do it within their own credit recurring system itself, which renews monthly. So that is the basic understanding you need to get on that. It's still on very low number of modules, but it has a lot of important fun for some of you guys. Like for me, tech stack is really good to identify tech resources they are using. Discover voice is there, schema markup is there, and also if you are looking to get this, these are available on premium automation, which means you need to pay extra for this. So you can get an idea on what are the things available from the automation page itself, and you can get an idea from here. And you just give the idea, you don't need to do anything from here itself. You will use workflows to create your automation, where you use one or more of these modules to get the data or results you want. Before I go into workflow, let me now show you how you can create your own modules on your own websites or any resources. If I go into scraping recipes, where now I get a screen where I can create my own automation from the scratch without using any pre-built one. Here first I need to give the URL, like where should I get the data. In this case I'm just going to use their blog, for example, to get the data of their post. You have two options. One, browser mode is fast, means that they will try to block out most JavaScript or heavily CSS functionalities and try to load the browser fast, but restricting some other tech stuff. But full stack means that they will try to load everything, but this performance will be really slow. So depending on which works best for you, you feel free to use whichever the one. In this case I'm just going to click on fast. Proxy mode is a different one, where you don't need to provide proxies for Exomatic. Everything is built in within the app itself. So when you select data center, it means whenever a scrape is going for a URL, it will automatically pick one IP from their pool of data center IPs and try to do the scrape or the functionality which we mentioned. Residential means residential proxies are usually much higher quality, because it is not just a server IP address, but it's actually IP addresses coming from mobile devices, desktops, from an end user's perspective, where usually these kind of proxies will have much more better success rate and will be hard to find it out as a automation or to find it as part of a server IP pool. So it will have some similar to end users IP, which is really good for any website which really try to restrict automations and everything. Residential geo proxies means that apart from just having end users IP, now you can go one step beyond and specifically get IPs from these countries, and you can choose whichever the one you want. Data center IP is available default, but when you use residential or residential geo, you will get charged extra depending on the usage. I'll leave out the more details on how the usage in the video description, so you can get more ideas on that. I'm just going to click on data center and I'm going to click on preview. Now it will try to load that web page for me here, so I can do more work on that. First, now there's no coding involved at all. Everything is like selecting something, and you can see automatically it highlights various stuff where it automatically asking, do I want to work with this particular data or this particular data? So it's really easy for me to just click and drag. For example, if I want to scrape all the titles on the blog post in this page, I just need to click on this. And automatically when I click on the title, I get all the different options available for me to do the all the different tasks. You need to learn a bit on what works best for you in order to grab the data you actually want in the website you want. For example, you can either select only this particular text, or you can select all the text which has similar CSS or HTML structure, in this case, which means it will scrape all the different post titles. Also your paginations, type, click, and these are particular function which is only available when you make sure that your browser loads all the stuff even when it's slow. So you have the option to scroll, delay, cookie, local storage, refresh. Personally, I haven't tested out these elements in much, so please make sure to check out if you are they are advanced guide if you want to learn more about it. So if I just click on select all, now it will automatically create a custom element for me where I can give a name for my personal use to identify this. In this case, I'm just going to go post title, and now I am saying that I have selected it. Inside this, which is the source I want to do. For example, I want to get the text of what I selected. In that case, I'm just going to select text, and choosing on different option will show if there's any different value for that, and I can just use this as a preview to see whether I'm getting the exactly what is the text I wanted from it. And I'm just going to save this, and now I'm successfully scraped. You can see it has found 10 different items within this page similar to this, and it shows everything with the HTML selector here. So I can keep on going like that. For example, if I want to scrape the link for this post also, I'm just going to click on here and select all, and in this case I'm just going to do post URL, and I'm just going to click on link URL, and you can see it has automatically picked up link. And let me pick the image also, and I'm going to do select all and post image, and I'm going to select in this case it should be source URL, I think. Okay, you can see the image format is selected. Now I'm going to do, so you're not only restricted here, if you want your own custom element to be found, you can add that also, where you can say give any name and select the type of the data you want and give your HTML selector value. For example, you can find the HTML element by viewing the page source and going into that into much more depth. It might be difficult for a beginner, but if you are an advanced data scraping guy, you can know what that means. So you can use custom elements also. So pagination is how you can do this. If I scroll it down, whenever I go into this, it automatically starts. I need to browse into the second one. So when I click on second and say paginate automatic, and I select this as the page number 2, and it will automatically pick up that pagination model. But this does not work for every single website. There can be some limitations or anything like that. So there are a couple of ways. One, you can do select the longer one and try to do paginatic automatic and see where you want to proceed. If that works, in this case it didn't. And the preferred way which I feel is the most comfortable is I click on something and I go directly into the paginate advanced. Now I just need to give the pagination URL structure. What I mean by this, I'm going to their blog page here and I'm going to find out their URL structure for the pagination. You can see this is the structure. So I'm just copy pasting that, and inside this 2, which is I'm on second page, I'm going to use this particular variable where I'm just going to copy that, and instead of that 2, I'm going to paste that. And here I can mention the values for that particular variable. For example, I want to scrape anywhere from 1, and in this case just 3. Even if I had 50 pages, I can just put 50 here, but I'm just going to put 3, and I can create the pagination from here, and you can see it has automatically identified all the different pagination. So that is how it works. There is no one universal way. Every elements or the data you select will differ for each of the websites, so it's mainly like test and see which is works for you. Okay, now let me click on save just to simplify this example, and it can see a new recipe has been created. I can say it as video depth demo. And also you can go anytime inside this particular one and edit the flow as you want. That is also possible. Now let's see how we can use both the automizations and scraping recipes which we created to use it. For example, I'm going to workflow. I'm going to create a brand new workflow where now I can either use only they are pre-built, and I can use the data input as the initial step, and I can upload the URLs I want to work with from here, all this option. Or I can use something like a module which scrapes results, so it brings out different things. For example, something like Google search, where when I give a URL and select the device and country, it will bring up a list of URLs where I can use those URLs to work with all the different modules. So depending on that, you can select all the pre-built modules, but you are not limited to that. For example, if I go into scraping resources, now I have the access to all the modules which I created from the scratch itself. For example, in this case, I'm going to click on the module which I just created, and you can see this explanation. So whatever the results I get from this module, whatever the data I decided to scrape, I can use those data as inputs to perform actions with other modules. So I can either click here to add a module in a one by one approach, or I can just click on here. For example, I want to get the word count for every single URL. So I give the URL as a source and it will try to bring, and I can select keyword finder. I want to extract all the meta tags. For this, I'm going to give the URL post URL, the source. The data which is required will differ for each of these modules depending on this. I also want to see the traffic insights for the URL. I'm just going to give the post URL, and what are the details I want. I'm just clicking on OK, and you can see there are a lot more functionalities here, so you can get an explanation for what are those are available right now as you're watching this video by going into the automation section to see. And if I use something like this DeepL translation, this will use the premium credit, and you can see it has been mentioned here also. If I go into this, it uses premium automation, so I will be charging a monthly recurring credit depending on how much data I'm going to use. So there is an option I can delete that here also. So once you've finished with whatever the modules you want to use, now all you need to do is you can select give a name for this like video depth and select right, and when I click on depth, now I have the option to either schedule this for another time, or do I want to run, and if I want to turn on the email notification when it's done. In this case, I'm just going to click on run now, and now it will immediately start working on this module. I get a quick visual representation on all each models which I've been using. And if I go into this, and now it's working depending on the number of data, number of modules selected, the data process time will also differ. If I go into the log data, I can view how it's working. For example, you can see the scraping recipe started, element scraper, page 1 success, page 2 success, page 3. Now it's starting to get word count, and you can see it's starting to fetch data, and I can do a refresh here itself, I think. Yeah, if I do that, you can see it automatically starts working on. I can get the data here also. You can see it's just moving towards. So depending on that, it will take time. And once you're done, for example, let me go into one of the different one which has been done. If I go into another test I did, and if I go into log data, you can see it automatically does all these things, and depending on that, you can see it scraped all the different stuff. I can export the data in Google Sheet, CSV or JSON format. If I click on CSV, now I can export the data which I just did right now. If I go that, and let me show you guys on a sample data, like how you are guys getting in this flow. I used what are the modules, let me see. Get page content, SEO meta, URL status checker, and text transformation. And you can see I am using a different ones, and you can see all the data. I'm not sure why there was a blank space in, if I'm made the process wrong or not. And you can see if I zoom it down, it scraped H1 tags, H2 tags, all the title tag, meta descriptions, and keywords, Twitter, URL text transformation. So you can see all the different data it was able to scrape. And I also used their transformation module, which means like essentially transforming from smaller case to capital. That's why you are seeing a lot of transformation modules also. So depending on the modules you selected, you will get the data as you want. So that is how you can use Exomatic for this. There are a couple of fake which has been important also, like what is the difference between premium credits and automation credit. I explained into video. I will also leave deeper explanation on the video description for you to better understanding with examples. And I have also made sure to include another question which is important, like how the cost is calculated for data center, residential geo, and what is the different proxies types available, and how their system is performing. Also in the description, you can check it out. Also browser stack and some other few questions which I personally thought really important you guys to get a good idea on it. Hopefully this video gave you a full in-depth explanation on how you can use Exomatic and help you to decide whether this is the right solution for you or not. If you have any other question, feel free to let me know and I will personally help you. Once again, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day. Cheers.